Yeah. Well, anyway, what's going on? This is Jason with the Sowell, Unveiled, Cosmic Wanderer podcast. Not Jason. Jason and...
Hello.
Jason, get up on that speaker a little bit.
My other brother,
there you
Jason.
Go. There you go. Sorry. Well, that you can hear it. We had some technical difficulties on the last show.
I think if I wrote a biography of my life, I would call it Technical Difficulties.
Yeah, well, my life would be that screen that you would see on TV, the snow. That's me.
The white noise with the visual?
Yeah, that's me. How about that thing when you would watch TV, that would John Wayne talking, it would... This is why.
With American flag, like late at night, you'd wake up.
Well, they would show, they would show all the different.
Why do I love my country?
And then go over and they would talk about all the different states. Yeah, that came on at like Saturday night at like 2:00, and then would go. My life. Yeah, I wonder
if that was a predictive programming type thing, even though it was like, be a patriot. Don't question anything.
Well, things were a lot different then.
They were.
Things were a lot different back then.
No doubt.
I don't even know. Well, what we were going to talk about today, we were discussing.
Yeah.
Have you ever? I've got a question for you.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah,
first?
Of course. Yeah.
I woke up this morning, and I have not had this in a long, long time, maybe years, with a profound sense of gratitude and gratefulness.
Well, you were with your kids yesterday. Your sons were here. You got to hang out with them. You hadn't seen them in a while. How long has it been since you?
That was the catalyst. My boys came Saturday, and we spent 23 hours together, and it was precious and wonderful.
Well, good.
Yeah, and
that's always a good thing to spend time with your loved ones, people that support you through good and bad, and.
Yeah, it's weird that you can be removed from that for so long and still maintain and tell yourself you're not depressed. But it's a wonderful thing.
Well, it's a natural drug.
It is. It is a pure drug. Love is a pure drug.
Yep, it's a pure drug, and it acts that way. And that kind of leads into what we're going to talk about today. Segue. And what we're going to talk about today is kind of a little bit of history of marijuana. We're not marijuana historians,
no,
but we're going to kind of share kind of our own experiences maybe, or what we kind of do know about, the history of marijuana and the, different aspects of it, different parts of the world, and a little bit of history about it and why it's kind of still gets, it's everywhere now.
Yeah, it's ubiquitous.
Yeah, it's everywhere now, in drinks and gummies and pens and all that. All different, which is, in my opinion, is kind of dangerous. I think it should be regulated so you know what you're getting. I would just like some good, regulated marijuana. You know what I mean? Because the stuff we're getting now, marijuana that comes into the country, those pens, those gummies, these drinks, they're coming from China. They're coming from India.
Yeah.
And the DEA or whoever checks into that when it comes into the country, they can't regulate
if we could trust an alphabet agency of the government, to tell us what's best or what.
It's what's important to them, what's going to get the most headlines, or who's going to get somebody promoted, or whose hands are going to be,
Yeah, like they're Dick Skinner's, like how much tax money are they going to make off of it?
Right.
That's really like going back to the revenuers, with illegal liquor stills. It was all about the money. It was never about the safety of people.
No.
And then even during Prohibition, then you had, when you didn't have like the high-end people that had money, you had the low-end people.
Right.
They're making what they call bathtub gin.
Sure.
That was, critically fell in their organs and they died within days.
Right.
Because there wasn't regulation, because the government said you can't do this. And you can't ever tell a populace you can't do something when it's all out there. They're going to find a way to do it. They always have.
Sure.
And then that only sets up, the black market for things.
And that's when you run into the issues about safety, and that's when the government says, see, look at this, look at that. Well, from it's my understanding, I don't know, I may be wrong. I don't think there's ever been a documented case of someone dying from
I've never heard about it.
Of marijuana.
No, I've researched that 30 years ago, and there's never any case. As a matter of fact, you and I were talking earlier that even in the book of Genesis, it said that God made the herb bearing seed and saw that it was good.
That's correct.
So
they do that also in Exodus. With Moses,
right,
when he got the recipe for the oil that God gave him, and
it was a sacred herb. Even
it was in that as well. There was marijuana in Moses's recipe, the oil,
right.
So
it was never
anointing. I can't pronounce that. Anointing.
I don't think it was ever in ancient history. Of course, I wasn't there, but any research I ever did, and if you really, go into things and throw away your subjective views about something and look at it purely, then you find out that there are ancient civilizations that use this prolifically.
Sure.
Yeah, and maybe it was kept from the lower masses that were the slaves, but that was just that's just like what we were talking about the last podcast about the Caesars eating frozen grapes. Like maybe it was a precious commodity that they just didn't want to give to the masses, but that didn't mean it was bad.
Right. Well, it's been used by people all over the world since the beginning of time.
I believe so.
I was, doing a little bit of research and saw a television show, and there was 5 or 6 different pharaohs that they in their tombs. Me and you were talking about. They found it in some of the little vials or pottery storage things.
That's right.
But take it to another level. They've done like DNA testing on these. What do you call them? The
mummies.
Yeah, but what's the other name for it?
The pharaohs.
Sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus.
But they actually had
sarcophagi.
Oh yeah, they actually had THC, marijuana in their system, in their DNA
when they did the DNA testing on them. So, which makes you, even if they didn't use it all the time, which they probably did, then at least that was part of the critical part of what their beliefs were about the afterlife and the power of it. And it's used to have it ingested when they were near death. Maybe.
Sure. Well, it was used for a lot of
speculating.
Well, back in the day, even the Egyptians, they used it for nausea. They used it, women, menstrual cycles, actually during childbirth.
To reverse hysteria?
Right.
Yeah.
It helped with seizures, epilepsy.
That's right.
That's a proven fact even today that it helps with that.
Even today, we were talking earlier about really when it came down to brass tacks was when Nixon was in office. I think it was around 72, 73, and they set these regulations for drug levels, and I think marijuana was classified as a 3. What is the terminology? It's losing me now.
Man, I have no idea. But you're right though. With Nixon, he was like the first president, like war on drugs. Yeah,
it was like it was okay to send your kids to Vietnam and to die. Not the senator's sons, but just the average American public and the less than average. And but yet you're going to put someone 10 years in prison at that time because you changed the classification, is what it was, to a Schedule 3, whatever, whereas heroin or cocaine might be a Schedule 4. I'm not sure about that. But marijuana was right under that. And so you get caught with a joint, and you're in the joint for 10 years.
Right.
We got a problem here with something that's so benign. And that only time has, history has unfolded of being a benign product that going back to what God created, that created all things, and it doesn't, you grow a plant and you can take the actual flower and dry it out and smoke it or however you ingest it. But it's not like creating something like heroin or cocaine where you have to process and use
with chemicals, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Like like even opium. The poppy.
Yep.
You could cut with a razor blade like they do in Afghanistan and lick the milk that comes off of the pod, the poppy plant.
They get the resin, and they smoke that too.
You can live to 100 years and work your whole life or whatever, but if you take it chemically and start to alter it, and that's really what happens with the drugs that are bad. Like if someone wants to counterbalance and say, hey, well, then God made this plant and that plant, it's like, yeah, but in its own inert state, it does not affect you that way. Man has to alter it with some kind of chemical malfeasance,
sure.
And
to get it to the point where you can use it, and
yes.
Right, yeah, that's right.
And that's really, so you're really talking about, like a lot of other things we talk about, you're messing with the original intent and the structure.
Simplest thing, it's a simple plant that has been on Earth since the beginning of time. Since man has been here, marijuana has been here.
It might have been here before we were here.
That's exactly right.
And I don't know.
There are another little piece of information. Again, I'm not a professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a professor. But I have done a little bit of research, and I've smoked a little bit of marijuana in my life, a little bit, But there are our body actually produces naturally some of the same ingredient, THC, cannabinoids, but they're not cannabinoids, but when they're produced by us humans, which it's proven that they're produced by us in our brains,
right?
Endocannabinoids, which it's the exact, pretty much same thing as the plant.
Well, you were talking about receptors.
Yeah,
earlier.
well, yeah.
The idea of receptors is that we're already our physical makeup already has these receptors that we were created with and born into, and
that God created these receptors. These receptors in our bodies, how we accept medication or whatever, food or whatever, vitamins, food. Well, that's something else. The humans' receptors and the relationship with marijuana, the plant, when it enters the body and those receptors, it works out. It's like it's meant to be. It's perfect. Like your body accepts those. The receptor, accepts them, like perfect. And not everything can be. It can't be said that way for everything,
Well, no, it's interesting because I grew up. I had to for about 7 years when I was, I think, from about 5 to 11 or 12. I was deadly allergic to bee stings.
Okay.
Now, unless you just have a pocket full of antihistamines, that. But what I'd learned later is that you can never die of anything initially. Your body doesn't have a reaction to something natural initially. It has to build up antibodies the first time, and then the second time it can tell your brain whether it accepts it or rejects it, and that's where the anaphylactic things
shock
happen.
And your body's like protecting itself against. Okay, this is what happened last time, and it's protecting you.
So twice a week, from like I said, from 7 to 11 or
natural
12,
defense. Your body's natural defense.
I had to go to a doctor and get 2 injections in my arm. I don't even know what they did, just to keep me from my throat from swelling up if I occasionally got hit by a bee sting.
Well, they were introducing it into your body in low levels, so it would build up resistance. Is what they were doing. That's what they were doing.
And I eventually grew out of it, which is kind of strange concept as well.
Yeah. But wouldn't honey do the same thing? Maybe on some things. I don't know about like bee stings, but it does with like allergies and everything.
Well, going back into the Pharaoh's tomb, I mean, not only did they find hemp or THC or
honey
extraction, they found honey.
That's right.
That was still edible 2,000 plus years later.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, so they had...
Put that on your oatmeal.
Yeah. I mean,
and smoke it.
You're not going to take 3 people out of millions and spend God knows how many slave hours building these sarcophagi and putting all this gold and all these beautiful, historical
important, the things that were most important to their culture and to that individual person.
And with the understanding that they were going to
take it into the afterlife and take it with them. We want this shit with us.
That's right. So that there in of itself states that even ancient cultures, which I think we've always, I believe that we were taught to assume that ancient people were less evolved, and I think they're probably more evolved.
Oh, more, yeah. They were a lot that they had a lot more wisdom than we do today. Because they lived life and they lived. We don't do that today. People are spoiled and get information so quick, and they live life.
And the Uncle Skeezers that
through trial and error.
Yeah, the Uncle Skeezers that controlled everything. You know, the banks and the education system and all have been giving us this download of pablum bullshit, in my opinion, you know, to dumb us down and give us a revisionist history and keep us away from the truth, which is always comes from the source of God, truth. And it's simple and it works. And
that's right.
And I would put that with THC or cannabinoids.
And then when they're in our bodies, I had trouble understanding that, but it's endocannabinoids that are produced in our brain, which is the same, but it's pretty much exactly the same as the plant, you know. So, and the plant itself, I mean, not only for medical or recreational, but like the hemp, like for rope, twine.
That's right. The strength. The natural tensile strength is unmatched.
Sails, the Vikings.
Clothes?
Yeah, the Viking. Yeah, that's right.
Breeze, way better than cotton.
That's exactly right.
Wool, way better.
Oh, the Vikings used it in their sails. The Egyptians used it in their clothing as rope, and they used it in their sails as well when they would, you know. The Romans were huge with it. They tried. Right. The Romans actually could not. They were kind of like the big, not dealers, but you know, kind of. But they exported a different.
The middlemen,
they exported it and into different parts, to the United Kingdom, to Africa, so on and so on. And
Tunisia.
The Romans, they could not keep up. The supply was so high for it, and demand was so high that they could not grow enough of it.
So you couldn't argue against that. I mean, like
it's important.
Like as a critical thinking, retarded human being that I am now, like I cannot in my mind find one reason why there should be anything negative attached to the procurement of it.
Well, here's another thing.
Yeah.
How many people die of alcohol poisoning every year, or drug overdose, or like from pain pills or opioids, or
millions,
exactly.
Millions.
Well, there is yet to be a diagnosed case yet. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but of someone ODing and dying from marijuana. You would have to. I saw this. I looked it up.
Right.
You would have to smoke, or however you ingest it. I would say smoke it, but
100 pounds.
100? No. It was 1,000 pounds. Smoke 1,000 pounds of marijuana in 1 hour for it to kill you. Well, that's impossible, and it's not going to happen, nor will it ever happen.
That's right. Right. So that's so obscure and out of the realm of possibility. That would be like.
So it wasn't illegal.
Well, like if you drank 1,000 gallons of water in an hour.
Yeah, it would kill you. Sure.
If it wasn't for the lack of electrolytes, it would be because your body would just like say,
right,
"Piss off, right. Man, I'm out of here."
But it just, I don't know, and that goes back to and it's still pretty much illegal in most of the countries. I mean, most of the countries, like, it's because it grows freely, and I don't know why. And I'm not into politics, as you know, and I know you're into it a little bit more than me, but you're not really into it either. But it's all got to do with politics.
Speaking of that,
and the big drug companies, they can't make their freaking money. You know what I mean?
Another spoiler alert out there. If y'all don't know that, out there in countrydom, that George Washington had hundreds of acres growing hemp.
Yes.
Hundreds of acres, if not thousands. Our first president.
Yes.
So think about that when you tie hemp and weed into politics. Like, wake up, people.
Here's another fact, Jason. You ready for this other fact? With paper from plants, and of course the trees produce all the oxygen. Anyway,
right.
They say that hemp has 4 times the yield that trees and other paper products have. And if you make
the same property,
right. It's hard for me to explain or whatever. Sometimes I don't do very good with explaining myself. But 4 times the yield of like paper from hemp versus trees.
Right.
Huh.
No, I mean, so what is the...
I mean, these are facts. So these aren't just my opinions, or, some of them may be a little gray, but they're facts. These are facts.
Well, I mean, we were made human to be subjective and have opinions. And we have experiences. And, for whatever reason, Jason and I probably could have died 100 times from different ways, and one of them would not be from marijuana ingestion.
Matter of fact, how many times have you had the worst hangover in your life? The worst. I mean, the worst.
The worst hangover was there was
from alcohol. Definitely. That's what we're talking. We're not about hangover from marijuana. Alcohol.
There was a horrible bourbon called Military Special that my grandma would get at the PX at Fort Jackson.
Right.
And give it to my dad on a monthly basis, and that's what we as teenagers would steal and go out in the woods, and that was the worst hangover the next morning.
You're right. Well, what has helped you the most the next day with a hangover? Well, taking another drink, which isn't the best thing in the world, or smoking a joint or taking a hit of, man, it kind of mellows you out. It gets rid of the headache, the nausea.
Hydrating, and eating some eggs probably or whatever, just laying in bed, for 4 hours of what we thought was fun as, teenagers or kids. And it took another 12 hours to recover, so you go to school and like half hang your head high.
That's right.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. When I woke up today, I know we were going to talk about something else today, but, when I woke up today, I said, this is what I want to talk about. And guys, I watched this documentary. That kind of got me going, too, last night. It was called The God Plant. I don't know who produced it. Yeah, The God Plant. I saw it. I don't know. I stream stuff. I don't know where. But check it out, The God Plant. And it goes over all this stuff, in a lot more detail and a lot better explanation than I'm giving. I'm kind of giving it
it's a topical thing for us today.
Yeah.
But there's so much more information out there for anybody that's willing to look at it and put aside their prejudices if they have them.
The God Plant.
The God Plant.
Check it out. That's what you need to check it out. So, yeah, definitely, man. You need to check it. It was killer to watch. And like I said, they were talking about the pharaohs, a different part where Afghanistan area where it grew in high altitudes and how it kind of evolved.
Right.
And then, during biblical times, like I said, we've had quotes of the Bible where it's been referenced.
Yes.
But they don't want to tell you that. But if you look at how it's translated, it is cannabis. It is marijuana. That was in Moses, the anointment oil. It was that's what it was translated. It was in there.
Right. Like anything else. Like, again, you wouldn't drink 10,000 gallons of water in a day or an hour. So you wouldn't overdo anything that was righteously made, in a unreasonable amount of compressed time. I mean, you just, that's, common sense prevails, and if you're so retarded then everything.
Oh my God, he said retarded. I hope that didn't offend anybody.
Oh yeah, well, anyway. that was a DSM 1, 2, 3, 4. But one of my favorite words. So
retarded.
Yeah. I mean, it just has that punctuation, that alliteration. Anyhow, but you wouldn't, anything would be a hazard.
If you think marijuana's bad for you, you are retarded.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking if there's people that, I've seen this, I don't know why, but they have an addiction to eating sheetrock and drywall.
Oh yeah, and the laundry sheets, man.
And you see this
but that's okay.
Weird goth girl, that's been lost from reality from forever. Her whole room is down to the studs.
Yeah. Well.
And if you can do that, you can do about anything. So I don't think we should never set the alarm for herb. and just even if you don't agree with the religious aspects of the Rastafarians, it's a sacred sacrament of them. And I actually have no problem with anything that Bob Marley believed or did. Matter of fact, I think it's fine art, and even on sometimes what would you call it? A beyond philosophical, but almost on a prophetic level, even though I'm not Rastafarian. But that's a sacred sacrament to them. And
it's in our body. Like, again, the same chemicals that are in it, they occur in our bodies naturally, naturally.
Yeah.
The receptors, the way our body accepts marijuana, they say it's a perfect key, like it works perfectly.
So who's the evil outside of that that's controlling things to tell us that we can't even respond to what God created to give our receptors what they ask for, and that we have to have this whole belief system
which is bullshit. It's bullshit.
Totally.
Somebody's been lying to you. Somebody lied to me. Somebody lied to you for a long time.
We were born in lies. So, in our time, we were born in lies.
Oh, yeah. But you know what, man? And nothing against our parents, but that's probably what they, preach. It's bad for you. It's the devil. The devil's weed. Matter of fact, that's when it started.
That's right.
But go ahead.
Well, the devil's weed, that was the name of that movie. I think it came out in 1931 or something.
Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness. That's what it was. And I think that it had a lower headline of the devil's weed or something.
The devil's flower. And that came from the migrant.
You said the Mexicans.
Yeah, the migrants.
But once the black jazz set, which
so it was a racial
obviously
thing.
The black culture had all the music and all the rhythm and things that just turned everybody on all across the board, and just wonderful stuff and influence. And
that's where music came from.
And so when that influence started to influence the white people,
right?
And now I'm not a wokeism little bit.
No, me either. Me either.
But back in the day, that evidently
was wokeism back in the day.
They're just like, wait a minute, we can't control, quote unquote, the white people. We're talking about 20s, 30s, or whatever. The flappers and dancing and everybody getting really shit-faced drunk. During Prohibition, and
they were and they had opium too.
And
they were smoking opium,
and they had to blame the unwoke masses that were sitting there going, "What's happening to our youth?" And they're like, "Oh, it's the Mexicans. No, it's the blacks. It's jazz. It's weed.
It's bad for you.
Yeah,
the Mexicans are doing it. The blacks are doing it for you. Y'all need to stay away from it. It's bad."
Yeah.
Which is. It's complete bullshit.
Oh, it's total. I mean, it is.
So that just gave them an excuse, like, a light bulb went off, like, we can use, to outlaw it. So they outlawed it because I think during the 20s, around the same time or maybe even before that, maybe 19.
I think it was like Warren G. Harding, which I think was like in late 20s, early 30s. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Because your boy was during the Great Depression.
FDR?
Well, he was some of the time.
He came out after it. He pulled us out.
Right.
Well, I say that like collectively pulled us out, but anyhow,
we went into war.
Well, he came in, I think, in 33 or 34. He's actually the only 4-term president, but I digress in our conversation about Herb. But he's the one that started the CCC and the Federal Works program. That
some say he could have been a socialist.
Oh, definitely. Well,
some of the programs, because he did. He also did well. He introduced welfare, didn't he?
Yes, but also he. You got to understand that he came from a rich bloodline, ancient family. Yeah. So when you have all your own toys and you lack for nothing, you don't have reality of what the average person, American, so what you're doing is playing a cosmic chess game with real people, moving the pieces around, and it doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
So you
like a game.
Yeah. So we could layer FDR in a lot of ways. I mean, he was obviously the president during World War II up until the end. In his 4th term.
God, his wife was ugly, too.
Oh,
God, she was ugly.
She looked like Jimmy Carter with a wig.
She was just ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly.
And then they never told the American people that he had polio and couldn't walk.
Yeah.
You know,
he tried to hide that too a little bit, right?
And then he had a mistress, and I mean, all of them had mistresses.
Well, I mean, I don't condone adultery, but did you see his wife? Did you see
that would be
or his husband, wife, whatever it was?
That would be a billboard for find a mistress if your wife looks like this.
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think, and later history will prove. You can look it up. Not the cover.
God, she was ugly.
History, but I mean, she was a dyed-in-the-wool lesbian, not dyed.
Yeah, and that's great. Good for her.
Fine.
But she didn't have to be so ugly.
She wasn't dyed-in-the-hemp lesbian. She was dyed-in-the-wool lesbian.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah, but no, Eleanor Roosevelt. Not knowing her and that she was dead before I was alive, I think maybe not. We might have overlapped by a year or two, but you only understand the history of people that you don't know through things that they provide you to understand, and that's why we all should be a little dubious. Speaking of doobies,
that's right.
Based on that, and not put so much interest, no matter what we read or what we hear. It really, when it comes down to it, if you're lucky enough to have a great grandfather or grandparents that can tell you what they experienced, that's about as far as you can vet history about things.
I'm always believe in question things, think outside the box.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're into politics or if you're not, or if you're a liberal or a conservative. Well, you need to question your own leaders, what are their, I mean, you have to question things. You don't be a sheep,
And we don't have to be relegated to these columns of liberal or conservative or whatever. How about, I'm a human with a conscience that cares about humanity and living things, and yet I like strength and believe in the Second Amendment.
That's right.
And I don't need to ascribe to a political party. I think,
right.
That it would behoove a lot of us to
go in that direction,
to give ourselves grace to step back.
But it all goes back to money, though, Jason. It's all about money.
Unprogrammed sex and money.
Yeah. Lawyers.
Lawyers, guns, and money.
Yeah.
Send me lawyers, guns, and money. The shit is hit the fan.
But it's just, it's just ridiculous, man.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. And then what about all the medical benefits of marijuana? What are the different things? We know cancer patients use it for nausea.
Right. Yeah. And that's after they give them all the chemicals that are killing them.
Right. No, let's give them something natural that's going to make them feel good.
But you have to give them a pharmaceutical grade that they rechemistrize. Right. That's not even a real word.
No, right. Restructure, reorganize the molecules in the compound.
Stick a name like Merck on it, or Philip Johnson or something.
Right.
Pfizer, yeah. And then charge 1,000 times over what really reasonably should be charged.
That's right.
And that's okay with the government. You will not go to jail or prison
and give those drugs away, and give the drugs away free to other countries. But then here in the United States, add 1,000% profit to it.
Sure. That is criminal. That's
exactly right. Those are the criminals. Those are the criminals. Those aren't the Mexicans, the migrant workers, or the black jazz musicians. Yeah. Those are the criminals, the ones that make those decisions. Those big giant drug companies,
right,
and the politicians,
right,
that shake their hands, the lobbyists, and pass this or pass that. Those are the real criminals.
And a lot of those, like they mess with little kids and do a lot of cocaine and heroin behind the scenes. But that's okay because they're protected, because they're keeping the average folk in check, for doing something that...
They're smarter than you. They're smarter than you. They know what's best for you, Jason. They know what's best. They know what's best for you. You know.
I do. Now you say that.
They work for us.
I regret that I didn't go to the holy church of politicians back in the day. I should... I have to correct myself because I'm errant in my understanding.
Well, we'll let that pass today, Jason.
All right.
So what else you been up to, man? What's going on?
Well, like you mentioned, I had a surprise visit from my two sons, and that was so wonderful. Talk about...
And what's your sons' names? What are names?
Jonah and Liam.
I got you. Jonah and Liam.
Jonah and Liam.
Liam. Liam.
Liam.
Jonah. That's in the Bible.
That is. Matter of fact, right. When me and my ex-wife had 3 home births, my daughter Willow being first, but I had a strong influence on all their names, and it wasn't because I was trying, but we were bantering around back and forth.
Well, you want your children. A lot of people name them after themselves, which is big. Some people, whatever. But you also want to give them a unique name. Well, then a lot of people don't have.
But that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Like, that's so old school to say. Not that I would never want to hear Jason Glenn Dorris II or third.
Exactly. Well, I'm not a junior.
But when you mentioned Jonah, I do remember thinking, I was like, I want to give my son a biblical name, and but also I want it to have
that's cool. Yeah.
I want it to have alliteration so that they can grow into the name and appreciate it. Hopefully, I'm not going to change my last name being Dorris, so O being the alliterative vowel in that mix. I was like Jonah, and then it has to kind of go with your last name, flow. That's what I'm saying. The alliterative flow. Yeah. So his name is Jonah Rowan Dorris, and Rowan actually comes from Peter Rowan, which is a musician, used to play with Jerry Garcia.
What's the name again?
Jonah Rowan Dorris.
I don't know who that is.
R-O-W-A-N.
No, the guy that played with...
Jerry Garcia.
Yeah, what was the name?
Peter Rowan.
R-O-W-A-N?
Correct.
I got you.
Which has a Celtic aspect to it. But Jonah Rowan Dorris. So the O.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So the O is alliterative.
I got you.
Yeah, and
well, my son's name is Haven Strauss Sowell.
Sowell. That has a nice flow, but But you're right. I was my main intent was if I could convince my ex-wife at the time, and it didn't take convincing because we were just kind of bantering around names. So it had meanings on different levels. So
your middle name is what?
My middle name is Glenn.
Oh, you're Jason. I'm Jason. My middle name is Guy. So JG, both of us. That's odd, man. Right? That's kind of little.
You got JGS.
Weird.
I got
JGS. That's exactly right. Well, I was named Guy as my dad's. Was my father's dad's.
Right.
Yeah.
I was in middle school. I remember crossing the bridge at Campus R, and this other guy came up to me. I think we shared the same birthday, but he tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, "You realize?" He's a soccer player. I can't remember his name. I can see his face. He goes, "You realize, I know you're born in July. We have the same birthday." And I said, "Well, yeah, of course." He goes, "Yeah, but have you ever looked at the calendar? If you go July, August, September, October, November, spells Jason."
That's right. He goes, I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, what?
It's strange, wasn't it?
And
then he goes, but unlike, his name was Jason also, but he goes, unlike me, your last name's Dorris, so I got December on the back. And I was just like, I don't know if that means absolutely nothing. But
no, I think that might just, you never know, but that might just be a coincidence, maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, there would have to be a lot of thinking with your parents that would come up.
Oh, no.
What we're going to do, Jason the month, and then December.
I wasn't going there.
Right,
I love my parents.
I got you.
They were not that sophisticated or cared.
Neither were mine. Neither are any. Well, some parents, I'm sure, are probably that way, but I don't know. Mine weren't either.
Well, like Shakespeare said, "What's in a name?" I mean, it's interesting that a lot of people. Well, for many millennia, there were never any last names or surnames or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It would be like, say, Jesus's uncle Joseph from Arimathea. So their last name would be, where their province that they were from.
Yeah, that's right.
Because there were so many, just generic names, so you had to differentiate it somehow.
That's right.
And
that's like some of the names, some of the different countries, like, and not to be racist or but like, what are some Indian names, like
Patel.
Right. How many Patels are there?
Evidently, there's millions. I had a friend of mine that owned a gas station, Sonny Patel, when I lived in Weaverville, and he never seemed to age. I don't know what that's about. I don't think it's adrenochrome. I think maybe the vegetarian living.
Could be the endocannabinoids that are just like firing off up in the brain.
That's right. I think the Indo civilization were like one of the most ancient to record the use of THC and weed, in that sense. But yeah, his name was Sonny Patel, and I remember watching.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that was funny because there was a news when I used to watch TV, and it came on local news, and there was an Indian lady, I can't remember her name, but her last name was Patel, and she slaughtered her 3 children in a hotel room, and they owned the hotel. And I remember the next day
who owned the hotel?
This Indian lady that was on the local news.
Oh, she slaughtered her own family in their own hotel?
Said that Shiva told her to kill her 3 children. Okay. She cut their throats. Anyhow, she got arrested, of course. And I was too ignorant to realize Patel was like a multi-million surname among Indians or Hindus. And so the next day I went back in and talked to Sonny, and I was just in my own ignorance. I said, Sonny, I heard about that news story. Is she a cousin, a relative of yours? Yeah. And he corrected me. He said, Jason, there are 20 million Patels.
I would say more than that. And that's the most populated country in the world, right? Or is it China? Or was it China and India go back to back?
I think it's 1.6 billion. Something like that. But
I think it's more now.
Who does
so many people, man.
Who does the census? How do we believe that?
They don't run. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, I'm just saying. They've been keeping us at 365 million for 20 or 30 years.
Guess what?
Yeah.
They don't know either how many people are here.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why they got all those drones out to watch. They're counting us.
That's what I'm saying. And it used to be, the whole reason that Jesus was born in Bethlehem is because there was a census and they had to abide as the dude did, right?
Yep.
And go to Bethlehem even though he was from Nazareth.
Yep.
And because of the census, and that was against God's intent and purpose, because that was the government trying to get their dick skinners on money they didn't deserve, and they had to have a head count.
That's right.
Yeah. So if everybody would just smoke a little weed,
That's right. Yeah. I think that's what we're going to do. Man, we might have to do part 2 on this episode and go more in on like the different benefits of marijuana. We were drifting, which is cool. That's what we do on this show.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap this one up.
Hey, man, I think it's a good time.
But I want to make this might be a 2 episode.
It might even be 3 parts.
Yeah, because we didn't get to discuss, and there's a wide variety of topics that we can talk about that can, spin off of the marijuana thing. You know what I mean? So,
profound and prolific. Yeah. There's a lot of things to discuss here in Tamana.
So, but I think so. That'll be that will be the next gig. I think we'll do another part 2 on this.
Right.
But
hey, I think that's absolutely the way it should go, because if there's any way to, talk about things that have kernels of truth, then maybe we're going to start trying to dig them up.
That's right. Well, y'all take it easy. This is the Sowell Unveiled Cosmic Wanderer podcast. We'll have a part 2 of this topic coming up soon.
Hey, love yourselves and those around you, but don't put up with any bullshit.
Pop! Later.